Welcome to Late Night Talks. We just came back from spring break.
We did. Spring break.
Yeah, spring break.
Did you have a crazy spring break?
Oh, it was so wild.
It was really wild. We're being sarcastic.
I watched so much TV.
We're being really sarcastic. We're not the party kinds.
You know what was exciting, though, was Samie Giebers turned 20 over spring break.
I turned 20. Woo!
Happy?
I'm no longer a teenager.
Yeah, you're not.
I'm a real woman now.
Is that the threshold? Is that when you become a woman?
I don't know. I thought you became I don't know. I don't even know when you become a woman. When do you become a man? When does a boy become a man, Austin?
I have never thought about things like that. Because, I don't know.
Because
there really is no moment, right?
I guess you slowly transition. Anyways, we're getting off topic. This
episode... Well, one thing we should mention is this episode isn't on video again.
Right.
Because our fancy camera that we used, or that we've been trying to use...
Film Dave and Phil.
It gave out on us last week for Eddie Connor, the psychic. And then this week, we couldn't even get it to start.
Right.
So we obviously have some kinks to work out with that camera, and we'll try to have it up for next week's episode.
Right.
But for this week's episode, we have an exciting guest. Kimberly Pressler will be joining us a little bit later.
And she's a sports reporter, a businesswoman, and she was a former Miss USA.
And I think that's interesting because Kimberly came back to school, and that's how we met her.
Right.
Kimberly was in the Cougar News class here at College of the Canyons. She just wanted to come back to school to brush up on her reporting skills because now she works for... the PBA sidelines and ESPN. So.
And she does some really cool things that you honestly wouldn't think a former Miss USA would. She's not afraid to get dirty, go on dirt bikes, jump out of airplanes. And
this is somebody who Stuff Magazine named one of the 101 sexiest women in the world, and she jumps out of planes, and she loves dirt bikes. And now she's running a fashion company.
And she has a child, and how do you even balance it all? Like, I go to school and have like a job, and I'm still like, this is too much. Life is too much, and here she is just tackling the world. Yeah,
we're gonna ask her about how she manages all that.
Right.
I got a question for you.
Yes.
Why does our show have a late night theme?
When we'd never.
You know what? I never thought about that. Like, it has a late night theme, but there's no point to that, right?
I don't know. Maybe it's because it's cool, and we're trying to be cool people. Yeah. Are we making up for something? The fact that we're not cool, and the fact that we don't have wild spring breaks.
I'll be honest with you. I kind of just think it's cool to have like a logo that has a moon in it. Yeah, and it's kind of neat.
Moons are pretty cool. You can't go wrong with a moon. And our guys, if you haven't seen our new Facebook profile pictures, on point. Yep. We're like chilling in the. It's at night at COC. We're looking at the
Louis
camera.
Gomez, a student here, took some really nice photos of us, and then an animation student, Chelsea Peters, helped us out with that logo. So it was a collaborative effort. And one person I think we don't mention enough that helps us put this whole thing together is CJ Laura. He's our tech, and he's the one who handles all of our audio, visual endeavors. And
go to the mic, CJ.
He's grabbing a mic.
All right.
It's on radio. I'm actually known as Rogue Cisco. Thank you very much.
But
yes, my name
isn't it Laura? CJ Laura.
CJ Laura. Yes.
Austin, you said Laura.
I'm not a professional. It's college radio. What do you expect?
Well, we are going to take a short break, and we are going to return with Kimberly Pressler.
All right, welcome back to Late Night Talks. We're here now with Kimberly Pressler. How are you?
Hi, guys. I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here. I don't know. I think it's really fascinating to have you in here because, Kimberly, you're a sports reporter and a businesswoman. But I first want to ask you about being a former Miss USA.
Oh, yes.
Yes. So you worked your way up through the ranks of the pageants. Miss New York Teen USA.
Yes.
You were Miss New York USA.
Correct.
And then finally in 1999, Miss USA.
Yes.
And when did this begin? Was this a dream of yours since you were little?
You know, well, in my teenage years, I remember watching the Miss Universe, Miss USA, and Miss Teen USA pageants on TV. And I specifically remember when I was 15 years old, I was watching the Miss Teen USA pageant, and there was this girl who was Miss New York Teen USA, and her name was Sarah Ray Gore. I was watching it with my family, and I remember turning around and saying, I'm going to be on this one day. And I remember my mom and my stepdad giving a little chuckle like, of course you are, honey. Because, you know, I come from a town of 1,500 people. We have one stoplight. We have no fast food. We have one gas station. So, you know, those were big hopes and big dreams. And then later on that year, I got something in the mail that says, would you like to join the pageant? You know, you can go in and put your application in. And I was like, oh, it was meant to be. So of course I filled out the application. They called me and I did my interviews and they said, you're accepted. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is happening. And literally Sarah Ray Gore crowned me as Miss New York Teen USA the following year. And I went to Miss Teen USA. And that just opened a whole world of like, what in the world is happening here? But it was amazing. And it was such a great experience.
So nobody in your family had any pageant experience before you?
None. Absolutely none.
This just came out of nowhere.
Out of nowhere. My mom said before I went to the state pageant, the Miss New York Teen USA, she's like, you have to compete in a pageant locally so you know what you're getting into. So we went into Buffalo and she put me into this pageant. There were 2 girls in it.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and I was like, I'm not sure how much experience this is giving me, but it was nice. I got to go up on stage and walk in a gown and it kind of did teach me a few things, which was nice, but it's nothing like a national pageant or a state pageant because I think when I went for Miss New York Teen USA, there were like 60 or 70 girls. And then when I competed for Miss New York USA, there were 187 girls.
Now, a lot of girls obviously compete for these pageants.
Yes.
And I'm sure it must be hard to try to stand out when all these girls are gorgeous and they're all talented and a lot of them have been doing it since they were toddlers.
Yes.
What do you think the judges saw in you?
You know, I don't really know what they saw in me. What I do know is that I put my best foot forward going into it. I knew that it was the best possible Kimberly that I could be. I made it a point not to compete with the other girls there. The only person I was there to compete against was myself because there's always going to be someone else who's taller than I am or skinnier than I am or more fit than I am or has 12-pack abs or the most amazing arms. That's not me. I knew who I was and I was okay with who I was. And I let that shine. And as long as I didn't go into that mindset that I was there to compete against anybody else, I knew I was going to be okay. And it just happened to work out for me. I was in the right place at the right time. So
when you were younger, did you know, or did the people around you know that you just had a certain finesse about you that you would be successful in the pageants?
You know, when I was younger, I remember I would, you turn on the radio and I would dance. Didn't matter where it was. I would just break out and dance. I would break out in song. And I remember I would go to all of my like family get-togethers and they'd be like, Kimberly, go dance for us or go sing or go do this. I have an 8-year-old daughter now and she is exactly
She
like
does the
that.
same thing.
And I see her, I see me in her and I'm like, now I know why they wanted me to do that because I look at her and she just has this spark for life and she's so vibrant and she's just her own person and she does not care where she is when she busts a move and I love it. So we'll be in Target some days and I'll be like full on doing the Running Man and she'll be doing the sprinkler and I'm okay with it. I was like, that's good parenting right there.
Would you want your daughter to, go into pageants and that kind of thing? Is that something you would kind of, nudge her towards or?
So I've been asked that a lot.
Right.
What I can tell you is that I want her to make her own decision. I don't want her to ever feel like she has to do it because it's what I did. I don't want her to build who she is off of what I did. I want her to be her own person. Now, I probably will not let her into pageants while she's this young, although she has asked. She's asked to be in several of them, and I think she'd rock it. I think she would do amazing. But I don't know if I want her to get into that just yet. Now, when she gets into her teenage years or even in when she can compete for Miss, I would love that. How amazing would it be to be the first mother-daughter to win Miss USA? Mm-hmm. I, of course, would love that. And she has, she's got a lot of years ahead of her to kind of figure out if that's what she wants to do. But when she gets older, if she wants to, I'm all in. I will back her 100%.
And obviously, whoever is Miss USA is at the top of You're at the top of the game, right? You're at the top of the food chain. Miss USA is the big one.
I'd like to think so.
It doesn't get any bigger than Miss USA.
No, for here in the States, it does not. When you win Miss USA, you'll then go on to Miss Universe. But for the creme of the creme, you want to win Miss USA. That's what it is. Right. And then even when you go to Miss Universe, Miss USA is always a top contender. It's always that they're looking at you going, okay, who are they bringing? Because you know they're going to bring in some of the best girls in the world.
Right. And a lot of girls would look at any Miss USA really, or any pageant queen, and just say, you know, they're perfect. They're, you know, they walk well and they have beautiful faces and bodies, and they would think, you know, this is the most perfect person ever. Have you ever gotten insecure about your body or your looks or anything like that?
Absolutely. Oh my goodness. It's funny because once you become, even in the public eye, but specifically a beauty pageant winner, for whatever reason, people think it's completely acceptable to talk about your body and how you look, either to you or about you, or voice it. Like, you wouldn't normally walk up to someone and say, hey, you know what? I really like this dress on you, but maybe you shouldn't wear that because it doesn't look good in this area. Or don't tilt your face that way because it doesn't look good for your face.
Because people think that's okay because you're a public figure. Like,
yes.
You know, exactly.
And I did not expect that. Again, I come from a town of 1,500 people. So at first, you know, I'm 5'4". And so I got a lot of heat because I'm not very tall. And I'm like, really? What am I supposed to do about that? I was like, great things come in small packages. I was good with it, but it was very hard when outside sources would press their opinion on me not being what they wanted me to be. At first it was hard. And then I just started ignoring it.
Right.
Because I know that I'm not perfect, and I'm okay with it. And I can't be the perfect image that they think that I should be. And if I pretend that I am, or if I even strive for that, I'm only going to fail. And I won't do that to myself.
You know,
Right.
speaking of drawbacks of having a title like Miss USA, and I wonder this about most celebrities, really. When you hold a title like that and when you're in the light like that, is it harder for you to find trustworthy relationships, make trustworthy relationships? Because how can you know who's a true friend and who just wants to be friends because you have that title?
Yes, that is something that I've struggled with my entire life, because you always want someone to be your friend because they like Samie, they like Austin, because they think you are good people, not because, oh, she's pretty, or oh, she knows this person, or oh, she can get me into this. I have always been guarded for that reason. I know that I have a handful of immediate close friends who I can talk to and I can bounce ideas off of, and they will never judge me about it. They will never ask me for anything. And then I have lots of other people that are around me that I'm acquaintances with, but don't know the true Kimberly, like the one that they get to see. I'm okay with that because I've learned to know that there's many different facets to who I am and what I do. Like the ESPN Kimberly is not the ESPN Kimberly who my daughter sees. She sees, she'll come to work and she'll be like, oh my goodness, or she'll walk the red carpet with me and she'll be like, what is going on here? But that's not the mom that she sees, and I'm okay with that. I do guard myself for that reason. But then again, I also let people in because I want to be friends with everyone. I want to get to know other people. I think that I want to know other people in their life and learn their life experiences because I always have that doubt in my mind.
When did you meet your husband?
I met him in 2013.
So was that something you had to deal with when you met him?
No, which was this is actually kind of a funny story. So I was on location in Mesquite, Nevada, shooting for NBC, and he was the course designer. I was hosting the show, and he was the course designer because he, at the time, only did freestyle motocross tracks. Even though it was huge, it was a very, very big thing. We've now expanded into other areas. But he was doing the motocross track. I literally had sweatpants on and a tank top on, and I'm in the casino, and I had just gotten a massage because we'd gone out the night before in Vegas with the crew. And I'm all like, who wants to go get something to eat? The crew's all like, oh, we already ate. But the course designer, he's coming. Him and his crew haven't eaten yet. And I'm like, okay, I am like greasy hair bowled back in a ponytail. And in walks this gorgeous man. And I was like, really? Not a stitch of makeup on. He saw me at my literally absolute worst. And he's like, yeah, of course. He then picks the nicest steak restaurant in the casino to go eat. And I'm sitting there in a tank top and sweatpants, and I was so mortified. And he like picks out this great bottle of wine, and his friends are there, and I was like, this is totally embarrassing. And this man is so good looking. But it was good. It was amazing. But it was kind of nice that he saw me in that element. Right. So it was a nice
and then you knew, like, okay, he doesn't like me for the looks because he's seen me at the worst.
Yes, exactly. Which was it was nice. It was refreshing, actually.
We're going to take a quick break. I want to get into your life as a sports reporter and a businesswoman. That's after we come back.
Right. We are back with Kimberly Pressler. I have one more question about the pageant world before we get into like sports and whatnot. But I know that a lot of people view pageants as superficial. And I've heard people say that they're anti-feminist because they glorify women and whatnot. How do you respond to those kinds of views?
Well, I don't really respond to them because that's their opinion, and I don't want to talk them out of it. If that's how they feel, that's how they feel. For me personally, I went into it and I used it as not only a stepping stone to build my career, but I also used it as a confidence builder, because let me tell you how much confidence you have to get up on that stage and rock a bathing suit, or even a gown in 5-inch heels, or to answer questions. We had 3 onstage interviews. So imagine having to do that in front of a live audience, in front of millions and millions of people. It helped boost my confidence. And I don't think being a feminist is someone who doesn't have the opportunity to show their body if they want to. It's mine. If I want to rock a bathing suit, I'm going to do that any day of the week, wherever I feel like it. But I dress for myself, and I want a man to open the door for me. That doesn't make me not a feminist. And just because I did a pageant doesn't make me not to be proud of a woman that I am. I feel like I live my life as much as I possibly can to be a good role model, not only for myself, but for my daughter and for other people who are looking at me in any light. I want them to know that I'm a strong woman, and if I want to get up there and rock a bathing suit, or want to rock a gown, or be in a pageant, or whatever facets of light I decide that I want to go into, it doesn't make me less of a person or less of a proud woman,
right? Because
I want to do those things.
And, there's obviously a lot of stereotypes that I'm sure you have to deal with when, people know that you're a Miss USA. But I've seen your sports reel, and you're on a dirt bike and you're getting dirty. And after, a celebration, there's champagne everywhere. And I'm sure some people are probably a little surprised. And so how did you get into sports reporting?
So after I was Miss USA, I did a lot of, I met a lot of people, and I did a lot of interviews while I was Miss USA. And that's another thing that people don't take into account of is, how many interviews you have to do, how many public speaking engagements. I was an official spokesperson for breast and ovarian cancer. So I command rooms of 10,000 people talking about this. Not something that a lot of people really think you do while you're a pageant winner, but it is. It's just one facet of that part of the life that helped me grow as a better person. And it also led me into my job as MTV. I was a host on there. I've always had, I think, a little wild side to me. I enjoy, bungee jumping and skydiving. And while I was Miss USA, I was on TRL several times. And then I gave up my title on the 4th of February, and by the end of that month, I was signed to a contract with MTV. And they said, okay, we have this great show for you. It's called Senseless Acts of Video, but we need you to do stunts on it, not just host it. And I'm like, done. This is right up my alley. I got this. So my actual interview with them was I had to go jump out of an airplane. I'm like, let's go. So we went to Paris, California, and I jumped out of an airplane. I skydived for the first time, and it was amazing. I was like, I'm going to get paid to do things like this. So that's
and you
how
haven't
it all
stopped ever since. I mean, you keep going. Right now, you're now a sideline reporter. Is that the right title for the PBA?
Yes.
And that's the Professional Bowlers Association.
Yes.
And you also, I saw you on Facebook Live today, Kimberly.
Oh, you did?
I was watching you, Lularoe.
Oh, yeah, that's my new business.
You were in your house with a huge variety of clothes, just a ton of clothes.
Yes.
I can't even stress that enough.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's
and you have people watching you live, and you're like, hey, does anybody want this? People are in the chat, they're like, hey, can I can I buy that? Or do you have anything like this? They're sending requests and you're like, oh yeah, I have this. You're pulling things out of your back. Why do you have so many clothes, first of all?
Well, first of all, that is my boutique. And that's why it's like a giant, huge walk-in closet. And I love it so very much. And it's growing at warp speed. Right now I have like 700 pieces, but I go through so much stuff. I'm constantly, the UPS guy knows me by name now because he's always dropping boxes and boxes and boxes of clothes off at my house. And then the postal worker, I think she has a love-hate with me because I'm all like, hey, what's up? It's so good to see you. Like I'm keeping her employed, but I'm handing her hundreds of packages weekly. But that has been amazing. It's Lularoe is the business that I started about just over 2 months ago, and it is growing at warp speed.
How many packages have you sent out?
Oh, I don't have any idea. I know that I send out several hundred a week, though. Wow. Yeah, it's a lot.
And you do it all yourself, too.
I do it all myself. I am, like I said, it's growing at warp speed. I had to hire an assistant just because I am getting to the point where it's outgrowing me already. But I have a lot of hopes and dreams for what I want to do with this business. And I'm starting to grow a team under me to teach them how to do this business, either make it as small or as big as they want to do it as well. So on top of actually selling the merchandise and talking to all the customers and creating outfits, that's what you saw me doing this morning. I was creating outfits. It was a personal shopping time. So I can't even tell you how many outfits I put together this morning. I love it. It's just a different angle of my life that I get to do because I love fashion. And one thing that I've learned, and Samie, I was talking to you about this earlier about Lularoe. One thing that I'm getting from it that I never expected is the joy it brings me when someone comes up to me and says, I tried on this dress and I felt amazing. Right. That gives me a personal like hip hip hooray inside because I feel like I'm giving them a boost of confidence and all I did was put them in the right dress. Like that makes me feel good. I never expected that. And it's just one of those added perks of, being your own business owner and doing something that you genuinely love that, they say if you do something you love, it's not considered work.
Seems like you're always creating opportunities for yourself, whether it's reporting on the X Games, reporting on bowling, doing Lularoe. Have you ever had a moment in your life where it was, a downtime where you just couldn't really get anything going?
I think there was one point where I wasn't sure if I wanted to go into hosting full time. Or if I always knew that I wanted to be a business owner. I know my brain works in numbers and it works in organizing, and that's what I love to do. I actually went to school for international business at one point, and then I stopped and I started working for the Department of Energy. But I knew that that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to have my own business. So I started small kind of in that arena, and I kind of pulled away from sports reporting and hosting because I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. And then, ESPN called and said, hey, you want to do X Games? And I was like, yeah, I do. And it just kind of blew up from there. And I think at that point was one time that I said, okay, what is it I want to do with my life? Because I had too many pots going on at the same time. And I just kind of had to focus on one and thrive at that. And then I can go to other things. And I think that's what's happening. Because on top of the sports reporting, I love working with the PBA and ESPN because my number one priority is being a mom. And because I work with the PBA and ESPN has been so amazing, I fly on our busy part of the season, which is about 3 months out of the year. I fly every week. Other than that, like I'm going to Maine. I fly out on Thursday. We're shooting 5 shows. We're doing a live show on Sunday. So I'll have 4 weeks off before I have to go shoot some more live shows. So it works really well because then I can also run our construction business. So this morning I got up at 5 a.m. I did 3 hours of work of that, took my daughter to school, and then put on my Lularoe hat and went and sold clothes. And I have another team member I have a video conference with this afternoon after I do this interview.
Wow.
You were texting me last week and because we were talking about Lularoe, and then you said, 1 second, I got to go do a live shot. I'll be right back. You never turn it off. You're always going.
Yes.
You never stop. Where does this come from?
You know what it is? I think that I want to build an empire. I want to build a name for myself, and I want it to be multifaceted. I don't want to just be one thing for my entire life.
You don't want to be just known as the former Miss USA or the sports reporter.
Absolutely. And I know that, we're only in this life for a certain amount of time, and I want to live it to the fullest. And I want to live a good example for my daughter. I want her to know. It's why I went back to school, and then I got to meet you guys, which I think is amazing. My daughter went into kindergarten, and I said, okay, now I'm going to go back to school, and I'm going to get that degree that I didn't get to finish because I won Miss USA.
Right.
Yep. And I did that for myself, but I also did it because I want my daughter to know that no matter what age she is, she can go back and she could do anything she wants. It's never too late to set a new goal or to achieve a new dream. And I want her to see that. I want her to see a strong, powerful woman that can be a mom and fly off and go do sports reporting on national television and come home and be homework mom the very next day.
Right. No.
Kimberly, I want to thank you for coming out and talking with us today. It was a pleasure. I want you to
guys.
Tell us where we can find your Lularoe and where we can see you on ESPN.
Well, you guys can see me on ESPN every Sunday at 1 p.m. It's Eastern time, so 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. And you can check out my shop at Shop Lularoe, Kimberly Pressler on Facebook. Feel free to go and check that out and join the group. We'd love to have you there and find you some amazing clothes. And then, we'll see you every Sunday on ESPN. Thank you guys so much for having me here.
Thank you very much.
It.
You are an inspiration. Like, I'm really short, and you brought it up really quickly. And I know this is kind of random, but like you said, sometimes you have to like get over those little bumps, and you said sometimes you were insecure about your height, and I'm really insecure about my height. And seeing someone like you who like can be a pageant queen and go and report and be really successful on sports reporting is kind of an inspiration, knowing that like you can like get through little things like that.
You are so amazing. And you guys, both of you, I've said this to you both before, but you guys are so amazing and you're so good at what you do. And I have no doubt that you guys are going to be huge successes in this industry because you guys are smart, you guys are funny, you are talented, and honey, great things come in small packages. So you'd be okay with that height. It's totally okay.
Thank you. That's very nice of you to say, Kimberly.
Thank you guys for having me. I loved it.
That's been another episode of Late Night Talks. We'll be back next week.